intro. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't even know what's going to happen here. We're going to hear for the first time, probably ever, via Zoom and Facebook Live, not one, but two islanders from the West Coast Island and the East Coast Island, from Puerto Rico to Hawaii, over in the Philippines right now. So this gentleman here, in case you don't know, we're going to find out. He is the first superstar of competition when it comes to karate. And this gentleman literally went undefeated, but in more ways than one. He brought to the game of competition the positive mental attitude, visualization, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Without further ado, I call him the greatest because of this. When I got a chance to meet him, first of all, I only had two people my entire life do seminars in my school, and this was one of them. And he was willing to make his own phone call and to come to the Bronx. Without further ado, the legend, Grandmaster, and I know he doesn't like all these titles, but I have to say it because it's the truth. Mike Stone. How you doing, sir?
Very good. Thank you very much. That's a big introduction. You cut that in half, I'd be happy.
Well, that was about half because otherwise we'll be here for a long time. Okay, because otherwise I have to say, he's the one that wrote the movie Enter the Ninja. He starred in American Ninja. Come on, don't you? And the funniest part of it was the day that you called me. I don't know if you remember. You called me, say, hey, this is Mike Stone, and I'm coming through and doing some seminars. Maybe you're interested. Do you remember what I asked you?
Yeah, you said, how much is it going to cost me?
No. What I asked you was, I said, which Mike Stone?
Yes. Right. I remember. There's another one. Yeah, for sure.
I said, guys, listen, guys, you know how I am. So I spoke to him for the first time on the phone. I said, which one? The one that stole Priscilla from Elvis?
Right.
And you said, yes. I said, okay, yeah, you can come.
You're funny.
Hey, listen, it's just a historical fact. So I reached out to you just a matter of hours ago, and you literally, you've never done a Zoom before. Is that correct?
No, correct.
And I know that you're in the middle of doing incredible retreats to help people stay alive. I know you've always been what I would consider a Renaissance man, and when we had a chance to break bread, I learned a little more about you. And one of the things that fascinated was that you was probably the first person that was really using positive mental attitude in competition. And that right there, and visualization, a whole bunch of stuff. So let me just ask you, and I know this is not a normal thing but what was your inspiration, your desperation, your motivation to even start in the martial arts, even though I know a little bit widely?
Yeah, when I was in, my life actually started when I was 11, the day my mother died. The day of her death was my rebirth. What had happened was, it was such an instantaneous thing. Death happens in a moment. You can live your whole life to however many years, but the moment of your death only takes a second. In the second that my mother had died, I could not fathom the idea of time. Time was something that I perceived it like everybody else. It's a linear thing. It's something that happens moment by moment over a period of time. And that's not real time. Real time, as far as the universe is concerned, is the moment we actually exist and we actually live in, which is the moment we call now, the present. When that happened, I started to already have a change of thinking. My thoughts started to change because I was confused as to how devastating, how shocking, how sudden it is to lose someone you love very much. And that moment cannot be retrieved. It cannot be taken back. It is gone forever. Even the concept of forever is a very long time. But in that idea, I started to create a different perception about what reality was, especially when it had to do with the time. That's why for me, everything I've done after that time of her death, everything for me was speeded up. Actually, it was slowed down. It's like making a movie. You want to see slow motion, you actually shoot more frames within a shorter period of time. When you play it back, it slows it down. This is what people say when they experience a near-death experience, that everything slows down in a crisis situation. So I started to perceive my life that way. So for me, I started to get rid of old ideas about what time was. I did not believe that time was an ongoing process. I was taught to believe, like everybody else, that learning is an ongoing process. That you go to kindergarten, elementary school, high school, college, trade school, that learning throughout your life is an ongoing process. And this is true if you look at life that way. But the way I started to perceive life was that life was still, regardless of the progression and the procession of it, it is still moments in time. So if I wanted to become an idea, for example, setting a goal, if I wanted to become an idea of myself in the future, why not be that idea in the moment I'm in, not to extend my life with the idea that is something I have to progress through after hard work, sacrifice, and suffering. That seems like a very stupid way to live. So even when I started taking karate, I started with Aikido my junior summer. And when I went to karate, my perception was, because I was a relatively good high school athlete, I was an all-star in football, and I was selected to a decade all-star, and I only played 1 year as a senior, where I played only 6 games. So for somebody to acquire the ability, the skill, the talent in 1 year, and they are giving me an award over a 10-year period, something does not match. Because it means, the way, if I understand the way I've been taught, that everything takes time. It's a progression. It's an ongoing experience. And that even the idea of experience is a time-related idea. Experience takes time. But that's really not true. Experience you gain in the moment you experience it, which is the moment you do it. So when I was doing karate in the beginning, I believed already I was never going to become a black belt. I was a black belt my very first day, my very first punch, my very first kick, even though my instructor told me on the first day it would take me 5 years to get my black belt. Well, it's okay if I chose to believe that it would probably take me 5 years or longer, or I may never become one. But what I had to do, if I can share it this way without sounding arrogant, because I don't mean it in any way that way, that I needed to change everyone else's perception about my skills and abilities. The only way I can do that is to live my idea of myself in the future, in the present moment. I had to act as if I already am a black belt. In every single punch, every practice, every kata, every strike, every kick, I must be that idea, not become it. Becoming something means there's a time element, but being in the moment is instantaneous. So that's why it only allowed me to take 6 months to get a black belt. So I'm the last one to make an argument about everybody claiming grandmasterships, because I got a black belt within 6 months when it was totally unheard of. And yet, if I consider 6 months a qualification of longevity to acquire skills and ability to be a world champion, what can I say to people that have gone 25, 30 years with no skill, no ability, and yet declare they are a grandmaster? Please give me a break.
All right, so listen, I'm going to give you a break right now because you just said a mouthful. Let me tell you something.
Okay.
The same thing with me. The first day I joined Sang Soo Tiger Kim's, I got into the corner. I got there half hour early, and I had this big punching bag, and I went, I started doing my stuff, you know? And these kids whispered, look, he thinks he's a black belt. I'm thinking in my head, I don't know about you. I'm a black belt. They just haven't gave it to me yet. Because that was my attitude.
Absolutely.
It's just
absolutely.
And that's the simple fact. So you was doing quantum leaps is what they call them today, because literally time is a notion, and that's the truth, guys. We're energy, and your energy, I remember you saying one thing. I expected to fight against these monsters in my mind, and then these little freaking mere mortals just showed up. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I went into every competition with the idea that, I mean, are these guys joking? I mean, I don't care how big, how fast, how strong, how much experience, how much talents, how much gifts. That meant absolutely nothing to me. And that's the idea. It only means something to them, not to me. So when I went in there, I thought it was a joke. I thought to myself, does this guy know I'm going to kick his ass and there's nothing he can do about it? I mean, it's not even, why bother? In fact, even with the judges, this is funny, but it's true. I went in and I said, I would go in for the most of my tournaments. I competed in areas where I was the only stranger. Me and my instructor would go to tournaments that we were the only ones from that school. And when we fought at the World Championship in Chicago, I was in a hostile environment. I fought 13 times in that day. It is, for me to fight 13 times in a normal, regular bracket, there must be thousands of competitors to fight 13 times if you did it legally. But every time I turned around, I was fighting another guy from the USKA. Not only that, part of the day, the guy that I kicked his butt ended up showing up again at about match number 8 or 9. So I'm wondering, where did he come from? I already defeated him. But the idea was, when you go in with a belief, and I can understand how people felt when they may have watched me perform. If you are my enemy, that is, if I am fighting your friend, your instructor, your partner, you're this, of course, I'm the natural enemy. So what you perceive in me when you see me fight is arrogance and conceit. You don't look at it as talent, gift, ability, skill, belief, trust, faith. You don't perceive that energy that way. You look at it as negative because it is against your instructor, your friend, your buddy, whatever. I can understand that, but let me make a point, if I may, please. For me to go into a hostile environment where 4 of the 5 officials are against me to begin with, what would it take for me to change their mind to match my belief system? That when they looked at me just entering the ring, they must say to themselves, holy shit, this guy's gonna kick some ass. And even if they tried to cheat, a part of their morality, honor, and integrity, which they never possessed, they must at least try to call it fair. It is so obvious that the guy is defeated that they have to call against their own friends. So this is how easy it was. And I'm sure you appreciate and understand what I'm saying.
Well, let me tell you something. It's a simple fact. Those of you who are watching, do you understand why I've always been the way I am? These are the giants that I followed. These are the giants that I stood on their shoulders. Rest in peace to Mr. Lewis, where I learned how to fake and reposition and do angles. I was his assistant 3 times in a year and a half until he told me, slow down, you're making me look bad. I was like, yes, I got it. And you know how he was. You know how he was. Oh,
yeah. Yes,
so,
for sure.
So my whole thing has always been exactly that. In New York was the whole world. Let's talk about that for a second. Because in New York, they had their own, what would be, every region had their own mindset of the best and the champions.
Yes.
But there was a gentleman that we spoke about, And I'm just curious to find out publicly what we would like to say, because to me, if it wasn't for, and I use these titles because those titles are what they were using, but I can tell you some funny stories about who we consider great grandmaster Aaron Banks. What did you think about him? I'm curious.
Well, the first time I heard about him, the impression I got was not my own perception because I did not meet him. It's from other people's ideas. And the perception was he was a con artist, he was a scam, he was this, he wasn't that good, he was a good talker, he's a salesman, he's a marketing guy. So they attributed his skills and abilities not to the physical martial arts execution. It was as a promoter, a producer, a marketing guy, a guy that was good with talking, not with actually doing. But when I first got to meet him, he changed my perception. Just being in his presence changed my perception. So we must be very careful about how other people make us believe things. We have to have the courage to go and meet people and make our own decisions based on how they deal and treat us personally, not their stories. He may be nice to me and a jerk to somebody else. That's not my problem. My concern is only how is he treating me as an individual. I cannot judge anything he does away from me, and it's not my position to do that. A soul can never judge another soul's intent on what they wish to learn in this lifetime. So for me, once I learned that lesson about never judging someone by what someone else says is, well, I would always say, well, just I'll meet him and talk to him, and then I'll let you know what I think. And I think sometimes we don't do that, but we should take the time, the integrity of our own thoughts, to take the time to allow someone to express themselves to us how they feel. Because you know, and I know that when we talk to people, we also talk to people differently, how we want to influence them with our agenda. So we are no different. That's not being fraudulent. That's not being a fake. That's not being anything. You are being true to yourself in the moment to who you're expressing. And if you're honest with yourself that way, that's all you can ever do. Beyond that, it's none of your goddamn business.
So the interesting part to me was that Banks had the audacity to get the Waldorf Astoria and put together some fights.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, the outcome of that was a pretty interesting group of people. I believe the heavyweight was Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Somebody known as Stone took light heavyweight. And then there was a middleweight. I think they call him Chuck, Mr. Norris. And then rest in peace to Mr. Mullins.
Yep.
And Skipper Mullins. So to me, I was so proud because for what it was worth, there was always a separation, East Coast, West Coast, and Banks didn't care where he was from. He just liked people.
That's right.
That man, right. I think I miss him so much. I miss him so much.
Yeah, I do because we need, when I say character, I don't mean it in a lesser degree. We need characters, we need personalities, we need the type of energy that he represented. Because people don't have that kind of energy. He had such passion, such faith and trust in who he was and who he believed he was in what he could do with it. And that's all we can expect. In fact, we shouldn't expect anything from anyone. But if we have expectations, I want to share with you the idea about it. Expectations produce two things, disappointment and unhappiness. So don't bother making any expectations about anything, least of all yourself.
But you can make acknowledgments once they produce those results and give them their credit where it's due. And that's what I mean with Banks. Oh my God, he brings a Japanese, Yamaguchi comes to America. The audacity of this man, how dare he do that? To me, that was incredible.
Yes, but at that point, if I may, I'm not meaning to correct you. I just want to make an observation.
Oh, yes, sir.
At that point, when he did it, it's no longer an expectation. It is a fact.
That's right. So let me ask you a question. What do you think about this guy? Who's this guy right here? The one in the air. What can you tell me about him?
Well, I can tell you a lot. I can tell you a lot, but you might not appreciate it.
If we keep this guy here that's throwing the kick in the air with that afro, what he
Yeah.
was he here what I think this around the same time. I don't know. Here his hair was a little shorter. I don't know.
Yeah.
So what was the difference between you and, I believe, rest in peace, that's Steve Fisher over there, which I believe was your student, and
Yes.
you're throwing that flying sidekick. What was the difference between that guy and maybe the photo there with the Hawaiians?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same basic. Again, please, if we have an understanding of who we are. So we are born human. We are not born human beings. The being part of human is the becoming of a human. So we are naturally born humans, but we don't become human beings until we integrate the mental and spiritual aspect of us to make us complete as a human being. At that time, I was a human. I was primarily a physical body that had a particular mindset that it's simply no one's going to beat me ever. So that was a mindset. A human being that I evolved to was someone that understood that basic premise, understood that basic raw energy, and made several transitions from that idea into a being, into a human being. So, yes, there is an evolutionary period we can go through. And that's why we have this thing called a lifespan or a span of our life. And within that time, our primary function, this is only my perception, please, so don't take it as anything. Our primary function and purpose to be here on earth is to simply experience our choices. That's all we're here to do. We make choices, we have experience, we experience it. Through those, through our choosing our experiences, we can now give meaning and purpose to our life. Life comes with no meaning and no purpose whatsoever, nothing in the preordained sense. But we give our life meaning and purpose through the experiences we choose. And through them, we decide our evolutionary advancement. Who do I want to become after choosing this experience? Do I become the better person, the higher person? Do I choose this aspect of who I am? Or do I want to revert to being human? So this is very simple for me now to have this understanding and this. A lot of people think I am wise. I am not wise. I just pay attention to who I was.
You know what? What you and for what it was worth, guys. Listen, I should have warned you guys. This is not some jock. Okay, this is a real deal. What I would consider. And again, there aren't other words that I can use for the time being. But let me just call you, and being as humble as possible, a leader and a unique person. Even though all of us are unique, but so many people keep trying to mimic other people that they don't even know who the heck they are, is my belief. So these two guys are about the same, around the same era. And then these guys here, can you mention anything about the giant killer and that other guy there? I think his name was DeCasco.
Yes. The wonderful thing about evolving is that when you have friends that evolve with you, so in other words, you don't leave them behind or they don't leave you behind. So the three people that you see there, we're all fellow Hawaiians from Hawaii, grew up in Hawaii. So in a sense, we've had a basic understanding of who we are because of our nature, our culture, our tradition. So that notwithstanding, through the evolution we all went through as humans, demonstrating our belief systems about who we thought we were at those times in our life, it was simply a physical expression that had some mental energy behind it. But after we retired from active competition, we had to now become full-fledged human beings or disappear like many other people did. So in this second phase of our transition in going from being human, competitors, warriors, people that had a particular violent tendencies, to become people that understood who they were, that they are created out of light and love, that they have this basic energy as to who they are, and integrate that idea into their living daily experiences as they evolved over time. Otherwise, you could never see the smiles on our face at our ages at that time being those people. They would not have existed. You understand?
Oh yeah, you was at a different frequency. Here's one
Yes,
frequency.
absolutely.
That's the other frequency. Yeah, I got
Absolutely.
you. Hey, remember,
Absolutely.
Puerto Ricans, Hawaiians, same people. You know anything about you? What do you know about Puerto Ricans? You don't know anything about Puerto Ricans, do you?
I had Puerto Rican neighbors. Are you kidding?
That's what I'm saying, guys. People don't understand that. Islanders, and again, what I loved about you, we had a great conversation with your wife also, and you know, the commonality of being an Islander, it doesn't matter what island it is, there's so much family unit and respect.
Yes.
And
Yes, and again, an island thing, if I may describe it this way, an island thing is an idea that you are enclosed, you have rock fever, you have no place to go. Mm-hmm. So when you are surrounded by ocean and you have no escape, literally, that you have to learn to get along with everybody, regardless of what nationality, what culture, what tradition. So in Hawaii, we had all these mix: Japanese, Filipino, Chinese, Hawaiian, Korean,
Tonga,
every
Fijian,
nationality.
Samoans.
Yes, Tongan, Hawaiian, Samoan, absolutely. But they all shared the common denominator of being with this island spirit. So we were not so much removed from each other than our traditional culture, for example. But our human experience had a foundation. So that tied us together no matter where we went. In fact, the feeling I've always had whenever I left Hawaii to come to America was I was instinctively looking for island people. It was an attraction to me to put out that energy, that when I saw somebody a little bit beige, a little tan, I was thinking, oh, I wonder if they're from Hawaii or from Puerto Rico or from this island or Samoa or Tahiti or Fiji or Tonga. You automatically gravitate to the energy that you are. If I may, I want to just make a small quote of my idol. My idol is a guy named Nikola Tesla. Now, Nikola Tesla has made many quotes, but he made one particular quote that changed my life. It was a very simple quote. And it went in fact, I'll tell a story just before that, if I may.
Absolutely.
I think it was about 1919 or 1920 when they had the World's Fair in Chicago the first time. And Edison was competing with Nikola Tesla for the rights to electricity. And they used Nikola Tesla's electrical to run the World's Fair in Chicago. At that time, a guy named Albert Einstein, who is probably still, if I may, considered the most intelligent human being on the planet ever, before or since. But there was an interview given by Albert Einstein to a magazine that came to interview him at the World Fair. And they asked him this: how does it feel to be the smartest man in the world? And of all things, his reply was, you would have to ask Nikola Tesla. Wow. Mm-hmm. So when he made this quote, I took it literally. He said, if you want to find the secrets to the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Everything, everything, everything. No, let me repeat that. Everything, everything, everything is energy that vibrates at a particular frequency. There is nothing more powerful on earth than human thought. That brain vibration is the most powerful we, in our minuscule mind, can comprehend. But since we have to live among ourselves, that is the most powerful vibration which exists, that we are. So this, if he said, if I want to change, if I want to find the secrets to the universe, I simply ask myself the question, can I find the secret to my universe? And if I can, do I need to focus on energy that vibrates at a particular frequency? Can I change my frequency to a particular energy that allows me to do anything I choose? And the answer is yes. So once you get to that level of understanding that everything I perceive, even today, I'm not joking, I perceive my life as energy. I perceive everything I touch physically as simply energy that vibrates at a particular frequency. And the frequency at which it vibrates makes it precisely, not maybe, precisely what it is. Its vibrational resonance makes it what it is. I vibrate that allows me to be exactly and precisely who I am. But I have the gift of free will to change that perception at any instant. And in the instant I choose to believe I am another frequency, I am that frequency. There is no transition, there is no wait, there is no hard work, there is no effort, there is no suffering, there is no sacrifice. You instantly become, and when you change and you make a declaration to the universe, I am a poet, I am an artist, I am a champion. In the moment of your declaration, the universe says to you, how can I ever disagree? If that's who you tell me who you are that. So we must appreciate the value of who we are. This idea about honor, integrity in the martial arts, I am so sad to say I don't see it. So please, my father gave me a name. It's Mike. Not master, not sensei, not grandmaster. Please don't dishonor me.
You got that right, Mike.
Mike, that's who I am.
Capital
Not
M.
grandmaster.
Can we use a capital M? Is that allowed?
No, lowercase.
Okay, no problem. And listen, I love you so much for so many reasons. And I'll tell you why. Because when we met way back when, I know that we actually had a conversation. I was into Tony Robbins during that time. I'm saying, wow, this is a lot of commonality that you have. Not that you got it from him, but this is what was happening. I said, this man was separating body parts and visualizing and having goal setting and using his entire entity to compete. Mind, body, and spirit to annihilate anything in its way instantaneously. And of course, that's probably one of the reasons also at times where you had to get internal and then visualize things, because I mean, who's this guy here now? This guy right here.
Yeah.
At that time, I think he starts to write stuff.
Yes. Yeah, there was a time in my life where I had a belief about myself. And the belief I had about myself that I was stupid. I actually believed this for many years because as I grew up, family, relatives, friends, teachers, everybody around me said, Mike is a great athlete. I mean, this guy can do anything, but he's not very bright. I flunked. I failed the 4th grade. I had to repeat it. So I write this in my autobiography. I'm writing a lot of things that people, if they read my book, are going to trip. They're going to go like, holy shit, this guy was a gangster. This guy was horrible. What a personality. This guy was, I mean, how can this guy even survive on planet Earth? But that is what you have to do. You have to be totally honest with yourself. So yes, that person there, when I came to the Philippines, and the reason I choose to come here, if I may explain that, because a lot of people said, why in the world will you go to the Philippines? And you've been on this little island for 35 years? That's half your life. Why would you do that? Don't you know your potential and your ability to make money here in America with all that you've done and accomplished and succeeded? Money means nothing to me. Money is a piece of paper that vibrates at a particular energy. I have the power to create money. I made this example yesterday to one of the people that came to me for classes yesterday. He wanted to start. He started today, 3 hours. I said, I can create, I can make money. I said there are countries that have machines that print money. So money is easy. It's in abundance. What people talk about when they don't have enough money is that they don't have enough for them. Well, you may want too much or more than you actually deserve to have. You must consider that is why you don't have what you think you deserve. And this is another thing in today's society called deservability. Everybody thinks they deserve without doing squat. But when I came here at 42 years old, I sat in a pavilion that I had built, and I sat there one day and I looked out at the ocean and I said to my wife, I said, Tina, there is something I'm not comfortable about me that I need to change. And now I'm 42 years old. So she said, what? You're fine the way you are. I said, well, other people may think I'm not fine. I'm great. I'm not happy in my skin. I don't care how other people perceive me. I have to live with me. And there's some things I'm not comfortable with. I want to change them. I know how to change them, and I can do them instantaneously. So I sat down and said, please give me a piece of paper. So she gave me a yellow legal pad, you know, the yellow sheet, the little bit longer sheet, and a piece of pen. And I said, okay, what could I do right now in this moment that everybody who has ever known me before, if they heard that this is who I am now, they would say, Mike Stone? You mean the Mike Stone I knew? No, this is not. Mike Stone, the poet? You mean this stupid guy that nearly failed English? This guy writes poetry? No, I won't accept that. So this is my goal. I sat down, I got a legal pad, I wrote a poem, and I told my wife, what should I write about? And she says, I don't know. So I started to think. I said, well, you know what I'm confronted with? Everybody confront me with their problems. Oh, Mr. Stone, I got a problem. Can you help me with this problem? I have this. I have an issue with that. I don't have enough money, not enough energy, not enough love, not enough of anything. So I wrote the poem, What's the Problem? So that's the first poem I wrote. After finished writing it, I read it briefly. Then I gave it back to my wife. I forgot about it for 3 days. She came back to me 3 days later and says, I would like for you to read something, if you will. And I said, what is it? Oh, it's just something. No, tell me what it is. No, I just want you to read it. So I read the poem again. When I read it, as I started to read the first 2 stanzas, I said to myself, holy shit, this guy is a genius. This guy is brilliant. Where in the world can someone explain something so difficult in life, explain it in such simple, easy to understand language that is applicable in this moment? I was amazed. And she said, you wrote it. I said, me? I wrote this? I couldn't believe I wrote it. Now, I've since understood how it works. That I can hook up with the ether that already has all the energy, collective energy of all of the poets who have ever existed. I needed the password, the key to access that energy that already exists. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can be transformed, but never destroyed. Every thought that everyone has ever had, ever have, and ever will have is out there. And the way energy works, it attracts to itself. That means birds of a feather flock together. That means all energy of equal vibration coagulate together. So in the atmosphere and the ether somewhere, there's a group of poets from throughout all of time. That energy of their thought about similar ideas of expression are out there. I needed to have the password. The password is this, for all you listeners. I am. That's it.
You know what's so interesting, sir? And again, is a fact. We know that right now, there's energy that's making this look like a photo.
Yes.
There's sound, and that's vibration. And,
yep.
and that's the fact. The fact of the matter is that Nikola Tesla tapped into what
yep.
would be the energy of the earth. And he
yes.
wanted to get free, which is already here. And that's the reason why J. Paul Getty stunted him and stopped him. And that's where they robbed him of all his gifts that came from here. He didn't want to earn any money. He wanted to, that Serbian wanted to help the world. And when they found out the truth. So I love this in so many different ways. And let me explain something to you. As I was looking down this, because we're live on Facebook and a whole bunch of people here are loving what you're talking about right now. So I'm a one-man show, so I'm managing. You saw me do the logos for you, and I hope you do like this.
I love it. Thank you.
It's
for
my
sure.
pleasure.
Thank you.
So how about this guy here? Because I think this guy here probably wrote a movie or maybe starred as a villain in one. How about that guy?
Yes, it's like anything else. The basic premise is we come into this earth with two gifts only: life and free will to choose. That is the only gifts we have. And aside from that, there are no guarantees of how we're going to use or abuse these gifts. So yes, we are alive. For alone, we should be grateful. But more so that we have the gift of choice, free will to choose how we want to express. So each one of those photos you pointed at are simply different expressions of the same entity, the same spiritual content. The base ingredient is I was created out of love and life. This is who I am. That is my basic ingredient. I was given a mind and a body. The mind and the body was a major mistake in many cases because it's where I could choose my identity. And my identity was chosen by my ego. And it did not make always the best, right, and highest choices. But it is still through our free will that we can choose any experience. And from those experiences, there are natural consequences. There are results and outcomes. So as you choose, be very careful that the natural process of choice is that you will have to accept. If you don't accept, that's another set of consequences. But if you choose to accept your choices, which means before you choose, you should think wisely. You should be aware. You should be consciously cognizant. You should have clear intention before you choose. But after you've chosen, there's a natural result of your choices, and that's consequences. You must be willing to accept in advance 100% of what I choose in my life. It is because I chose it. No finger pointing, no blaming, no accusing, nothing. You cannot. You have to stop that. The issues and problems you experience in your life is because you don't accept your responsibility that you chose your experience. And when you stop doing that, you can pretty much stop living. Your experiences are not going to give you nothing but fear, hatred, frustration, confusion, anxiety. It's going to give you all these expressions. And these expressions, mind you, are natural consequences of your choices. So you better think carefully before you choose. But the person that chose to write the Ninja movie was just a natural progression, because from the time I was 10, 11 years old, I went to see Japanese movies. And I love Japanese people, the culture, the food. I loved everything about it. When I had a chance at my junior summer in high school, I went to a boarding school for 4 years. When I had an opportunity to learn Aikido, my first 2 weeks in Aikido was under Koichi Toihei, the number 2nd ranked guy next to Ueshiba, the founder of Aikido. My first 2 weeks at Aikido was with him. I mean, how blessed can you have an opportunity to get at the highest level immediately? And he had tremendous impact. So when I went from high school junior to football, what I did in football was unheard of for somebody to do in 6 games what took a decade. They were giving me accolades for 9 years of my life. I didn't do anything. And then when I went into karate, to accomplish what I did in such a short period of time, everybody thought there was something wrong. I mean, this guy is cheating. They accused my instructor when I went to the nationals He accused my instructor of demoting me from a black belt to a brown belt so I could kick everybody's butt. He was shocked when he did that. And they said he can't compete anymore in the US unless you promote him to a black belt. We can't have this brown belt running around kicking everybody's butt, including black belts. So on the flight back, when I asked my instructor, you look depressed and say, well, aren't you happy of what I've accomplished? Oh, yes. But now I'm caught in a dilemma. I said, what is it? He said, while you were having fun, hurting people and don't have to go to prison, I had to explain to people that you're not a black belt, that I only let you wear a brown belt to get experience. That's the only reason I said wear it. So from a white belt, in 3 months, he let me use a brown belt to compete. I went to Tulsa, Dallas, and the Nationals 3 tournaments in a row and won everything in kata and sparring at all 3 events. At the Nationals, they now won't accept that I'm a brown belt. They think I'm a black belt. He demoted so I could beat everybody. So on the flight back, he says to me, Mike, remember what I told you the first day you trained? I said, I pretended like I didn't know. I said, no, why? What did you say? Remember, I said it'll take you a minimum of 5 years to get your black belt? I said, oh, you said that? I pretended like it wasn't true. He said, well, now I don't know what to do. I said, why? What's the problem? I know how much you love, not like, not enjoy. I know how much you love expressing yourself this way. When we get back to the military base, I'm going to promote you to a black belt. I said under my breath, without saying it too loud, it's about time. But then when he said, what did you say? I said, oh, what time is it? Yes, I had to change everybody in the country. Every black belt, every school, every student, every instructor, every grandmaster. I had to change their perception to my reality, that I am this. I don't care what you think.
Sir, so let me say this, right? We had a chance to interact in the 90s, and you actually came to the World Championships when I fought in Waco.
Ah, yes. Yes.
And we have a great photo, by the way, which is kind of cool. Everything that you've said there is consistent with the way I've acted. Because I know one thing, plain and simple, that if I'm here, it's because I'm going to win. They would ask me, I would walk around like this. I already won. I ordered it. Yeah. I ordered my victory, and let me find out how I did it. And people would ask me, how did you do? I said, I already won, but let me find out how I did it. And I also would say, they used to say, are you going to compete? I said, if I don't compete, who's going to win? If I don't compete, who's going to win? Because the decision to win was made when I entered the room and I changed the entire chemical structure of the entire room.
Absolutely, exactly. That's how it works.
So
but people, you have to remember, if I may, Jerry, you're saying it exactly right. First of all, you could not be, or we could not be here talking to each other right now at this moment of time in which we exist if you did not believe that. You could not have made it. You could have been like 97% of the population of martial artists from that time to now that don't exist anymore. At least not exist with this vibrational frequency.
There you go.
Not. They are still around, but they are still saying, I have 25, 30, 40 years of experience. Well, wahoo. Does that make you any better? Actually, I know people with 50 years of experience that know nothing. So what is longevity? Nothing. It's the quality of who you are now, in the present moment you exist. This is what you can claim. Everything else is bullshit.
Results. Not
Absolutely.
Intellect, not intellect. Yeah. So when I used to do this, so here I am, I'm a 16-year-old, but instantaneously I was going to be a father. And a father has a response ability, your ability to respond. So I had to step up. And I made martial arts my vocation. Yes. I wasn't that smart. I didn't know. I thought if I got in the magazine, I would be rich. I was unconscious and competent, but
It's okay.
because I believe so much, I created. There was a time where I had 1,000 students in 6 schools. You went to one of my
Yep.
locations, and of all places, it was in a residential district in the Bronx. And that was impossible to have a storefront school. You know what they told me? Oh, they're going to break your windows. I said, who's going to break my windows? You freaking crazy? Break my windows. Because people were afraid, because they were being subservient as opposed to being leaders. My mother would whip my butt if I was not a leader. And she's in the room. She's not too far from here right now. And that's where I got my values from, my mother. That if I went to war right now, I bring her first, because she will infiltrate and knows how to get them right in the jugular. You know Puerto Ricans.
Yes, for sure.
Women
For
warriors.
Sure.
So how about this guy right here? Who's that guy? What could he teach those other people?
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, even when I speak today, like again, yesterday I talked for almost 3 hours with a client that started this morning at 9 o'clock. He took a 3-hour session. After I was finished with talking with him for a little bit over 2 hours, his mind was so fried. He even when we went to his motorcycle for him to leave, I asked him a simple question. Oh, you have a girlfriend. Well, that's nice. What is her name? He couldn't remember her name. And they've been dating for over a year. So I said, what happened to your mind? He said, I just can't function right now. I mean, the things you said, I'm trying to figure out, my God, is life really like this? I said, what? Compared to what you thought it was? Yes, it's quite a different experience. So, yes, and the thing I like the most, if I may, Jerry, let me go back to one point.
Yes, sir.
When you talked about your dojo, now I did for about 7.5, 8 years, I did 55 seminars in 60 days throughout 28 states. Out of all those seminars, I am not blowing smoke. Yours was the first one I went to. Now, I don't care what you call the place, but the energy, if you recall the energy in that room. In fact, I think you had a student that wrote about it maybe several months ago in response to what you were talking about.
Yes,
That experience.
Chris Halbo.
Yeah. Well, the energy I felt that day in that room was so special, so unique, so inspiring, so motivating that I found myself saying things. In the process of saying it, I said, where the hell did that come from? I mean, I was not normally thinking to say something like that, but the moment created the energy for me to rise above myself, to come up with something that was much more meaningful, that other people in that room could not necessarily intellectually understand, but could feel it, that I know what he's saying because I feel this, not intellectually interpreted. So I had to share that with you because that was a wonderful experience.
The law of attraction and action. The law of
Absolutely.
attraction and action. And this is the whole thing. What I have to do, even to this very day, is meet with those entities that are at different frequencies that aren't in the physical room presently.
Absolutely.
Because
absolutely,
all of us, realistically, like what you said, you did one seminar of many, but only one sticks out because it made you improve, which is our goal, is to get better, to leave the village a better place than how we found
absolutely
it. And we
absolutely.
have a duty and responsibility to lead by example.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I'm so inspired, because I'm only 54 years young.
You're a baby.
This is what I'm saying. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as I'm speaking to some of my peers, they making excuses, because I think the number one disease is excusitis. Excusitis is running rampant.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
And I say to them, wait a second. Oh, you can still just do the split. Or I say, wait a second. What would Jack LaLanne do at my age?
Yeah.
What would Jack LaLanne? Because I think it's important to have mentors and role models, whether you have them here in physical or not. What would you say about that?
Yeah, he was for me as well. Jack LaLanne. In fact, I have his juicer, the same juicer, the Jack LaLanne juicer, for over 15 years.
Me too. Because I have the bigger hole. It's better than the juice man.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, they're charging you more money for a less quality product. But the time Jack LaLanne was doing it, that was his passion.
I got it for $15. And people don't even know that his wife is still alive.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
She's 94 years old. She's still doing seminars. And his role model was a gentleman, I forget his first name, but the last name was Bragg. And Bragg is where you go get amino acids and the different juices in stores to this very day. That was Jack LaLanne's role model.
Ah, okay.
His mentor.
Yeah, in fact, I saw it. I saw it in one of the first books that I got about nutrition and health. And I think the guy's name was Don Bragg. I'm not sure. The first name. Yeah.
Yep. And that's where people get apple cider vinegar is Bragg's with the mother.
Yeah. You asked me about the gentleman to your right shoulder, over your right shoulder. What happened to him? He has been blessed with the idea that he is continually learning. So sometimes I have people, you know about my program, sometimes I have people come to me, they stay for 7, 14, 21, and 30 days. They cannot leave, no drinking, no smoking, nothing. They just live in, they get totally immersed into this philosophy of life.
Transformation.
I have people that have changed already, been 7 or 8 years since they've been here for only those 14 or 21 or 30 days, and their life has never gone back. Their family, the children come to me and says, what have you done to my father? I said, what are you talking about? The wife would say, I've been married to him for 14 years. This is not the same man I married. You've changed him in 1 week. What did you do to him? I said, please, if you're going to give me credit, you must blame me for all the failures I've had. So don't credit me. If you see any positive improvement in his life, it's because he chose to make that change. I had nothing to do with it. Nothing. But the guy over your right shoulder is in an ever-learning progressive, like it was when I was a child. Learning is an ongoing process. But let me abbreviate that by saying the other truth of it. You can learn instantaneously, even though it continues. Every time you go into a new experience, it doesn't take you long to make a decision what is the best thing for you. You should have enough wisdom already. Why? Because I've made enough mistakes in my life, more than once, more than twice. I finally got to the point I don't choose to be that idea anymore. It doesn't resonate within my spiritual nature. I need to change. So the person of your right shoulder, yes, he is at a constant evolution. I learned from my student today. For example, he did something I did not appreciate. Right? It's wrong. It wasn't a fault. It wasn't a mistake. He did something on my level of understanding I did not appreciate. That doesn't make him wrong. It was a choice he made on how to express himself from what he interpreted I told him to do. So the communication problem may have been mine, not his. But what I learned from everyone, I'm not talking about a student, everyone I meet in my daily life, I don't care what they're doing, I choose to learn. And if there's something I don't appreciate, I can say what I've learned is how not to be. I don't want to be like that. And that is still learning.
That's the only examples that I had. The only example that I had around me was what not to do, so I did the opposite.
Yes, absolutely.
Is it possible to just mention that you got a few guys on this side? What can you say about any of these guys here?
Well, a couple of them I know very well. When I say I know them very well, from the time I started to compete in 1963, I had to create, as you well know, because you explained it and you used it as well, You have to create another source of intelligence.
Alter ego. The alter ego.
No, not. I don't mean to disagree with you, but not that way.
Yeah.
Not create another idea of yourself or another entity that you can look back on, but you develop a sense, not something you have to project. It's a feeling that you have that is reconnected to the spiritual quality of who you are. So that reconnection to that energy of light and love allows you a sensitivity and an awareness of people's true self when you're with them. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Not judging. I'm not saying you're judging who
Right.
they are and what they're doing. I'm saying your observation allows you an insight into people that even they are not aware of. They are that way. But you have a special insight because of your connection within yourself to realize, I was like that before. I choose no longer to be that way. So with the people that you're talking about, the guy to my left, James Coburn, I do not know him very well. Actually, I can say I did not know him enough to even say he's a nice gentleman. He was respectful in everything. The other person, Chuck Norris, I know him very well. Bruce Lee, I know very well. Now, again, when I say very well, other people may interpret what I'm saying. I am not saying I know them at a level of conversation, greetings, casual acquaintance, even though I've met someone maybe several hundred times. Maybe I went to dinner, we traveled together, went to movies, went to vacations, competition. Beyond that, you understand? So at this level of knowing someone, only my soul is privy to that data. It is not for me to divulge what my soul knows to be true. So about the people that I say I know very well, I must keep that private. Do I like them as individuals? For sure. Do I respect them? For sure. Have they accomplished many good things for themselves and other people? For sure. So within the context of you asking me, do I know them? I will say yes. But I will tell you also, I really know them.
Got you. Sir, listen, I want to be respectful of your time because when it comes down to it, I know that what you did and what you're doing now, so many people are going to benefit from it. And
I hope so. That is my intent.
that's all my intentions are. My intentions is to be a vessel of love and spread the truth, at least as people believe it to be. And
yes.
What else do we have? We're living during some crazy times, but some incredible times also. It all depends on where your frequency is at.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In addition to that, a lot of people are going to say, hey, to some people, oh my God, Mike Stone and Jerry Fontanez were having a conversation and
yep.
And I'm saying, guys, we had similar conversations back in the 90s.
yeah.
This is
Absolutely.
nothing new except
nothing new
to us.
Yes.
And I say,
well, we've learned a little bit since then.
Right.
And
yes.
Which only adds to it. But that is not a negative. We're blessed to do that.
Yeah, well, this is my point. It's like when you're doing cotton candy, every time you go do another cycle, you pick up just a little bit more. Yeah. And if you're lucky enough, you get a chance to learn from a lot of mistakes.
Yes, for sure.
We failed to the top.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
But guys, this is funny because he said we gave some optional times. And one of the optional times was 1 o'clock right afternoon. Yeah. But I didn't realize, I didn't investigate that also meant that it was midnight my time.
Yes.
But from the bottom of my heart, I'm going to ask you one favor if it's possible. Can we revisit this someday? Can we have...
For sure. There's so much more we did not cover. We have so much more to offer and share. So yes, I think people that may be listening may say to themselves, wow, I hope this never ends. Because
Well,
that's how I was when I was learning and evolving and wanting to be the best I could. So
well
yes, we will definitely do it again.
let me tell you what I'm excited about.
Yes.
Watching this. I can't wait to watch it
Why?
myself because I get a
Oh,
chance.
can I watch this also?
Oh, 100%. People watch it.
Oh, okay.
You're not only can you watch it, it's broadcasting live through Facebook, and it's also
Yeah.
being recorded. So it'll be the audio will be extracted at some point, and we'll have a podcast with it. As you
Oh, I
saw,
see. Okay.
I'm pretty techie. For those of you who don't realize, you know,
Thank God.
yeah, well, listen, to me, it's the art of war, and the world has
Yes.
changed, and we're warriors, so we need to become warriors with everything, not just the pen, because today is the keyboard, it's the pen, as you guys know.
Yes.
But I've enjoyed this immensely, and I want to be respectful for your time. Plus, I don't want my mom to whip my butt because it's kind of late.
Right. I understand.
But sir, I thank you, and I'll reach out to you for an alternative time. And what I'll do is maybe, based on speaking to a few people, we can get a little more specific, because when it comes down to it, like you said, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
And you literally are so much better now, but not as good as tomorrow.
For sure. I agree.
I
Listen,
thank
Jerry,
you.
thank you so much.
Oh, my
Thank you.
pleasure. Hey, listen, for what it was worth, you know what? I still get
What?
I get a kick that you even know who I am. You know, like I don't know how I got
Oh,
so
come
lucky.
on.
How did I get?
Don't underestimate yourself.
No, it's not that. I'm still 99.9% a spectator. So when I appreciate people who are honest, which are real minorities.
Yeah.
So to have someone that has what I consider a level of integrity. By the way, guys, integrity is personal hierarchy of your values. That's what it really means.
Yes.
So integrity is personal.
Yes.
So when you say something, I know you're saying it from your truth. So if I get a compliment by having someone know my name, I'm like, wow, thank you, because you don't have to. That's what I
But
mean.
you've earned it. But you've earned it, Jerry. You've earned every bit of it. And it's because of the way that you are. So don't be surprised if someone does know who you are. Don't be surprised if someone loves you. Don't be surprised if someone remembers what you say. You have something of value to give, for sure.
Well, on that note, sir, I thank you. Only one
All right.
request. When I say
Yes.
AB, if you don't mind saying see ya, okay, AB,
See ya.
bye-bye. Thank you. God bless, sir. Thank you very
Aloha.
much. Aloha.
Okay.